Hello, and welcome to the Great Game Debate Podcast, where friends come together to talk about video games and our lives. As usual, I'm your host, Caden Berthay Lane, and joining me, of course, is the godfather of the Great Debate himself, Jonah Gomez. How you doing, buddy?
Great. I'm a little bummed we had a surprise for you guys this episode, but he couldn't make it because he's sick. Mateo, we feel for you, man. That being said, it's still gonna be a great show. We got an awesome guest, and I'm really excited for this episode.
Heck yeah. And of course, we are joined by the Saucy himself, Stephen Beaumont. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm not as stoked as Jonah with Mateo leaving us at the altar like we had like Bruno Mars playing and like we're all like in our finest outfits and just nothing like single tear like rolling down the cheek.
I love that you have Bruno
Yeah.
Mars while you're going down to the altar.
That's pretty great.
That's
And
funny.
our special guest this week is voice actor, Radiata Stories evangelist, and Kingdom Hearts fanfic writer, Eli Farmer. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, doing well. That's a fun intro. I guess I never really thought about it like that. I keep all those things usually separate, so to think about them all coming together, I'm like, whoa, the face behind the secret is out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope you all stopped by the planet Velden in your starship and picked up your Omni wrenches because it's time for the icebreaker.
I know this is the thing.
Yeah.
That's how well we plan things.
Yeah,
I knew we were forgetting
Thank you,
something. I'm
Jonah,
sorry.
for adding the icebreaker sound in post. Incredible work as always. So our icebreaker question this week comes in from Discord community member and moderator Zach Pearson of the Brothers Pearson. Shout out. What great game got ruined by corporate politics or greed, and why? I'll kind of You got something locked and loaded, Jonah?
Yeah, I read this and a single tear rolled down my face for Titanfall 2, and recent news was EA canceled a single player game from
Recent news, right?
from Respawn. So we're really hoping that's not Titanfall 3, but yeah, launching that game in the same week as Battlefield, which you have full control of that. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
But also right before Battlefield, but right after Call of Duty, like they both launched in the same week. You set that game up to die from the beginning, and it was way better than both of the other games that had come out. So rest in peace, Titanfall. We'll always remember.
Rip.
Pull one out.
Yeah, pour one out.
Yeah.
for the homie.
I've got a little bit of a softball, I guess, but a few years ago, I came very late to play Dragon Age Inquisition, which overall I loved. Like, I had a great time playing it, but the game is very unpolished, lots of glitches. You'll fight like a dragon and you get the dragon to 0 HP and it just doesn't die and you just have to reload your save and fight the dragon all over again.
No.
But it's hard not to think that the game could have been more polished if all the effort they put into the multiplayer mode that nobody wanted in that game went into polishing the single player mode just because EA said, hey, you have to have a multiplayer mode. And I just really hope Dragon Age Dreadwolf coming out is single player only focused.
Well, I'm seeing
Steven?
a trend here.
EA.
So, well, I'm gonna go the other most hated company in the world. And say pretty much any modern Ubisoft game. Like, if you have anxiety about opening your menu because you're just going to be flooded with ads and do you want to buy crystals? Do you want DLC? Would you like to join the Ubisoft club? Like, have you redeemed your points yet? Like, I just want to change my gear, but that's it's too much to ask of Ubisoft.
Yeah.
But if you spend $45.99, you can get better gear to change into, plus 6,000 crystals. Don't you want that?
Where else
Wait,
am I
are
getting
crystals
6,000
different than gemstones?
Yeah. You can get gemstones in game, but every 10,000 gemstones is 1 crystal, so you're
Mhm.
getting a great
But
value
there's
for
1,000
spending
gems
that
left over, so then you have
$45.
to buy more of them because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
nothing is for 1,000 gems. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can get 1,000 gems. Everything's worth 1,300 gems. The
Yeah,
next one
yeah,
up is
exactly.
2,100 gems.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Ubisoft and EA. Eli,
Ubisoft, the AAA free to play gamers.
yep.
I think
Anything come
that
to mind for you, Eli?
yeah, I think that for me, the one that was so devastating as of recent was definitely Fallout 76. That one
Yes.
crushed my heart and soul. I was so excited. I was like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be so fun. This is going to be so great. And then it's just like launch day and you literally can't even like make it out of the vault before things start like falling apart. And they're like, just hold on, it'll get better. Because I hear now it's great. Like I hear now that it's
Mhm.
like pretty playable and moderately,
They added
sustained.
NPCs 2
Yeah,
years
they did.
after launch. Incredible.
That's still the wild shit to me because like how many actual players were on a map? Was it 30 or
It
something?
was
I don't
less than
actually
that. It
know.
was like
It
16.
was-
Oh, you
Yeah,
just
it's pretty
reminded me.
void.
Wasn't there like a short-lived battle royale mode in that game that
Yeah.
There
got
was, and it
that's
was
so
terrible.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and so
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh yeah, I was gonna say yeah. So Fallout 76 for me, just because it's one of those things where you're like, you're so great at making single player games. I get that you wanted to try something, but maybe try it with an IP that is like not as valued as Fallout. But what do I know?
Yes.
I'm just a
Yeah.
dude.
Like
Can
it
we
had
co-
such good potential too, because everyone's like, "Oh, we want to co-op. We want to co-op like Fallout game. That would be sick. Like even if it's 2, 3 player co-op." But they're like, "Okay, you can do like 4 player co-op," and I was like, "Okay, that sounds okay." And then like we got this card system, like, okay, that sounds all right. And then it's like, yeah, and then you're the first ones to leave the vault, so there's nobody else out there but you guys and like 18 other people that you might run into, and it's like, oh, so the only other interaction with any other characters is people that I don't want to play with. Great.
The thing that just always got me from the start is the lie that they're like, we've never done this before. I'm like, does Elder Scrolls Online not exist in your company? Like, what are you talking about? You've never done an online game before. Oh, this is just, we're breaking new ground. We've never, so that's why like things aren't quite working right because we just don't quite know what we're doing. It's like, that's bullshit. Like, what are you talking about?
For our audio listeners, I'll point out in the background of Jonah's collectible shelf, there's a big fat boy nuke there behind his
Oh,
There's a mini
nice.
nuke. I got
Yeah.
my Pit Boy, and then the box for the Pit Boy,
Yeah.
and then I got
That's the skill tree there.
yep, and then Steven's got the skill
Oh.
tree. Yeah, so you got some
I'm
serious
Wizard.
Fallout fans right here.
Yeah. I have to ask Eli, as a Fallout fan, are you very excited at all for Starfield or keeping up with that at all?
I've been keeping up. I keep up with pretty much kind of all the releases because really it's
Mm.
like, all right, now how does this affect the release of Fallout 5 is always my, that's how I keep up with the news. But for me, I don't know that I'd say I'm particularly excited about Starfield, only because of just the environment itself isn't something that I'm super pumped
Yeah.
about. Like, space is cool, it's fun, but it's like I would just play Mass Effect, like, you know?
Right.
So I
We-
think that for oh, go
Were
ahead.
you a fan of the base building in 4 or?
I did, yeah, I did enjoy the settlement building, but I liked as deep as it went in Fallout 4. I
Okay.
feel like what I'm seeing with Starfield is it kind of is like it's like even more, and I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
like the settlement building. I like more features, but maybe like let's focus on that story component and like give me more quests to do and more like actual quests, not a bunch of Radiant quest. Because you know I like Radiant quest, but I don't want that to be like my entire Fallout experience or my entire Bethesda experience, right? And so for me, that's where I'm like Starfield seems like it's going to be really heavy, kind of on that settlement piece, like building your own base and having your NPCs work in it, which sounds cool, but I don't want that to be like, hey, because we gave you this, we feel okay cutting back like in the other area. So that's kind of where my concern is.
And that was
Eli.
Sure,
that's
sure.
why
And-
I liked Fallout 4 is because that was like you could build a base. There were quests where you had to build a base, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna put the bare
Yeah.
minimum here, and then
Mhm.
I'm gonna leave and not
Yeah.
come back here anymore because I didn't want to do that at that time. I eventually
Yeah.
went back and made some really cool bases, and they sprinkled in stuff with the DLC, which I
Yeah.
thought was done really well. And
Yeah.
like the minor DLC packs, that was just like, oh look, here's some stuff to get you hyped for the next DLC. So we put this small one in that's just like robots for more robots for your base. And I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Starfield's got me like
I must admit, I'm not looking forward to hear like Steven, another star system needs your aid.
Yeah, Space Preston Garvey comes along. He's wearing a spacesuit with like a cowboy hat on top of his helmet.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Yeah,
well,
I feel for the I'm not sure off the top of my head who does the voice of Preston Garvey, but I feel for that voice actor, man. I'm sure he's
Yeah.
probably like out somewhere and people are like, "Hey, you're that dude that never shuts up." Whenever he's at cons, maybe signing
yeah.
stuff, like he's
No.
probably always getting
Yeah.
roasted. He's like, "I'm just reading the line, man." Like,
Imagine like if you just he's got to go get he's bought a new house and he's like doing well and he's in there and there's some millennial banker in there and he's like, sign these papers, another settlement needs your signature. It's like, oh, please stop,
please stop. Just I can't escape it. Yeah.
Great. Well, hopefully Bethesda will deliver. Remains to be seen. But thanks again to Zach for the question.
That's a great
You know,
question.
yeah. Shout out as usual. Check out Zach and his brother Hunter's Twitch stream, the Hunters Pearson. They're always doing great stuff, streaming D&D and stuff over there.
Every Sunday.
And yeah, just general appreciation for Zach. He always helps us out every year with the Secret Santa and raising money to donate to Games Done Quick. So yeah, Zach and Hunter are awesome. But with that, we'll move right along to our little interview here with you, Eli, so everybody can get to know you a little bit better. First and foremost, if you could tell us a little bit about your voice acting journey. I mean, as gamers here, and enjoyers of animated media, we all have an appreciation for voice actors. So, how recent of an endeavor is that for you? And,
Yeah, so I would say that I became a professional voice actor probably about 3 years ago. But prior to that, I really took a serious interest in voiceover in about 2017. I had moved down to Texas. So after I graduated from college, I was like, I want to move to Texas. And my mom was like, you don't know anyone there. You don't have any family there. Like, why do you want to live in Texas? The reason I wanted to move to Texas is because I actually was born in Texas. But then we
Okay.
moved to Virginia when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And for me, I was like, I just always wanted to come back. I had
Yeah.
no understanding of why, but for me, that was like just the place I wanted to be. So I turned 18, and I was like, after I finished college, I'm moving to Texas. So finished school, moved down to Texas, and I was working at a university at the time, and I can't remember how I had gotten the idea, but I was just like, I want to take a tour of Funimation. Like, I wonder
Oh,
if they
hell
like
yeah.
do that. Like, wonder if they let you like take tours. And so I shot over an email, and they were like, "Yeah, we actually we do that every now and again, but there's very small and like it's
Mhm.
a decent sized sort of kind of waiting group." And so I managed to make it onto a little tour of Funimation. So I got to tour the studio, and I remember as we were
That's
going
so
through.
sick.
Yeah, it was really cool. We actually got to meet the president. Like
Oh,
that's the
really?
first stop
Wow.
on the tour. So we got to meet Gin Fukunaga, who is the man behind Funimation. He's actually the guy who's responsible for bringing Dragon Ball Z to the West. So that was like
Oh.
that was
Legend.
really cool. Yeah, so like getting to like shake his hand, and he's like such a humble, like low key guy. And so like they took us through, and then we moved to the back, and we got to see sort of like where the actual recording spaces are. And there was an empty booth, and they're like, "Yeah, if you want to just go inside and like see what it's like." And I was like, "This is so awesome! This is so cool." And then we went to another studio, and I got to see an actual show being recorded live, which was really, really neat. And I was like, I want to do this. I don't know how. I don't know how I can make this a thing, but I want this to be my job. And are you all familiar with the anime Aruka 7? Have y'all ever seen Aruka 7 or
Uh,
heard of Aruka 7?
I've
I mean,
heard of it. I don't know if I watch a lot of anime, so I don't know if I've seen it or
Okay.
not.
Okay. Aruka 7 is like show. There's a kid, his name's Renton. There's a girl named Reka. She's got blue hair. There's giant robots, sky surfing,
sick.
all kinds of. Anyway, so we got to like see them do like sort of like the audio engineering for it before it released in theaters. It was for a movie.
Oh, okay.
And so I
Wow.
got to see basically like 15 minutes of this movie before it was even released to the general public. We had to do all
Oh,
this, like,
very
you know, like
cool.
NDA stuff.
Sign
Like,
an
you really,
NDA.
yeah, you can't tell anyone what you saw. And I was just like, man, this seems like such a cool world to be in. You get to, like, you know, do these really cool experiences. You get to play these characters. You get this insider information. You get to see stuff before it releases to the public. So all of it, I was like gung ho. So I went home, jumped on this Facebook group. It was like Dallas voice actor something. I forget what it was called at the time. But I was like, hey y'all, like, how do you like record a character demo? Because I was like, I'm just gonna go into a studio and record a character demo and send it off, and surely I'll get picked up because I'm so talented naturally, and I just have all this. Like, I was just so like, I had not thought the steps through for this at
Yeah.
all, but I was like, this is how it's gonna work. And luckily, someone was kind enough to save me a bunch of money and time. His name was Cliff Zellman. And he was like, hey, have you ever recorded voiceover before? You ever done character work? You ever done any of this stuff? And I was like, no, but I think I'm ready. And he's like, that's not how this works. Let me take you out. I'll buy you lunch, tell you about the industry, give you just,
Oh,
you
that
know, a
is
little
so cool.
rundown.
What
Yeah,
a
he's like,
what a dude,
he's the
man.
man.
That's
Yeah, Chris the
awesome.
man.
Shout out to
He was,
Cliff.
yeah, he was very big on sort of like building up that Dallas voiceover scene. And so I remember he took me out to lunch, and he just kind of was like explaining, like, okay, you need to get coaching. And if you have a good coach, they'll tell you when you're ready. Because a good coach is not going to sugarcoat it and be like, oh, you're so amazing, but you actually suck. A good
Yeah.
coach is going to tell you, like, that was really bad. You should try again. Or they might tell you, this is just not for you. I'm sorry. You should maybe try to invest in something else. And so I took his advice. I got a coach, and it's the only coach I've ever had. His name's David Rosenthal. He's actually the CEO of the Global Voice Acting Academy.
Oh,
And
cool.
so it's like, yeah, so it's like what I consider sort of, because there's not really a clean roadmap to being a voice actor. Like, there's so many different ways you can sort of become one. But for me, as far as like the most structured path to take, I think GVAA is a really good route for people because it will check a lot of the boxes for you, to make sure that you're ready before you actually put yourself on the market. So I do the coaching with Dave. We coached, we would do probably about a session a month. Um, I did that for about, I want to say like 6 to 8 months, just focusing on the character acting component. Now, of course, we do our session, but then it's like homework, you know, in between every one of those. So it's like you need to be reading everything you can. Here's a bunch of scripts. You need to memorize these. You need to practice these. You need to be able to do 4, 5, 6, 7 different takes of all of these different characters. Because when you go into a session, improv is a tremendous portion of what we do. Like, hey, can you try this again, but add a little more of this? Or maybe you could put a little more spin on that line, or take some of this off, or could you speed that up? So, like, if you're not
Sure.
someone who can be quick on the trigger and adapt in that way, you're going to struggle, especially when it comes to the character acting component. And even more so if you're interested in anime, because I know that's what a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I want to do dubbing. I want to do
Yeah.
the anime stuff. I was like, that is a super specific skill, that takes practice. Like you've got to get used to the cadence and the timing and these things. Like when you get booked to do, I give you an example. The first ever named character role that I had, I was in a show called Dragon Goes House Hunting. I played a character named Daniel. It was the first named role I'd ever gotten. I was so excited. I was, oh my gosh, I'm doing dubbing. Like, whoa, this is so cool.
I know what I'm
I
gonna watch
remember.
tonight. I'm very excited. I'm very curious.
I've seen the clips of that on YouTube with your voice
Yeah.
acting. Yeah.
And so I was so excited to go in and record for this, and it was the first time I'd ever done it. And I remember we recorded it was like the entire episode that I was in, and I think it was maybe 30 minutes, a little over 30 minutes. So basically, it's like with all these lines that you have to get done and the speed in which you have to do it, you're getting 2, maybe 3 takes a line. Like if you can't get it in those 2 or 3 takes, it's like you can kind of start to feel the like, okay, we're time crunch here. We need to, get the ball.
Gotcha.
So being able
Gotcha.
to produce, in 3 takes is such an important aspect. That goes for really, I think, all voiceover, but especially when you're talking about dubbing, because the turnaround is so quick,
Yeah, the
especially
pressure. Yeah.
with fans nowadays. They have the expectation of, which I love. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the term of simuldub, where
Mhm.
pretty much like an episode will come out and then like within 24
Oh,
hours the English is
they're
ready to
done.
go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Uh,
gotcha.
makes
and
sense.
so a
That's
lot
such
of
a hard crunch.
yeah, and so
Uh,
a lot of folks think that, all of that is recorded like 6 months in advance, and
Mm-mm.
so that you just have time to work and play. It's like usually that episode that you're maybe the first three or four, might get done in a bulk, but that episode that you're watching was probably recorded the week before.
Wild, man.
So
That's so
it's
wild.
yeah, and so you're talking about coordinating the schedules of maybe 15 to 20 actors an episode because you've got your main cast and then you've got the background characters, you've got creature voices, you've got villain, all that stuff, right? And so you got to coordinate these 20 different people in a week. So there's not like, oh, I really wasn't getting it right on this day. Can we reschedule to the next week when it works better for
Yeah.
me? It's like,
Does that work like
that's
that?
Bro,
Yeah.
this
yeah,
needs
it's
to go
not
to the
really.
mixes tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
intense, man.
feeling that pressure of it. So anyway, um, I finished my coaching. Then after I wrapped up that component, I got my first demo made, which was a character demo, and it's still the character demo that's on my website today, elifarmer.com. If you ever wanted to go just listen to my stuff, but yeah, so I got my first character demo made, and then after that, my coach was like, and my coach he was so great because I remember our very first session together. He had me read some lines, and he was like, "Your talent is raw." Like his way of like, he's like, I can see there's a lot of energy there, but the we need to really work on the skill component of it, which was great because he was honest. Like that's what I needed. I
Yeah.
needed someone to tell
Exactly.
me like,
Yeah.
hey man, because I'm coming from someone with no theater background whatsoever, no acting, none of that. I actually was a athlete. That was my sort of my path. I wrestled in high school. I wrestled in college, so Division One. So like sports was like what I knew, and so that was a huge 180. Like now
Yeah,
you're
wow.
doing
Yeah.
acting stuff and
Yeah.
like background in it. But yeah, so get my first demo made, start sending it off to agencies. I get my first agent in LA. And then probably about a year later, I get my second agent. Is actually based. Shout out Tanya. She's based in Canada, in Toronto. So those are my two agencies. I do most of my work through my agency in Canada. That's where I book a lot of the stuff. And then outside of that, pretty much everything that I've done in terms of anime and video games has all come through sort of just individual rosters at studios. That's one of the other things that I think that maybe people who are interested in the industry, new to the industry, on the outside looking in, is it's not like, oh, you get an agent and then everything is like magically done. Like you
Yeah.
still have to sort of market yourself. You still have to find ways to like get in front of specific directors because not every casting director works with every agency, or
Yeah.
they might be very regional. They might have just a small list of in-house talent that they really trust and want to work with, because as popular as anime is, as much as it's loved, especially dubbings and all that great stuff, it's still a pretty contained market
Mhm.
in
Sure.
terms of the folks that are doing it regularly. They're getting better about obviously allowing new talent to sort of break through and get those opportunities,
Mhm.
which is great and wonderful. And I'm not trying to discourage anybody who's like listening and like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to do it. What I'm just saying is like, be prepared. There are stories like, oh gosh, who is it? Her name is Caitlin Glass. She voices Winry in Full Metal Alchemist. If
Mhm.
you all
Oh,
have seen.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so but she's done a ton of roles. She's an amazing, amazing actor. But her story is that she actually just was like on a tour of Funimation, like going through, I think like maybe a school trip or something like that. They're going on a tour, and Eric, I think it was Eric Vale, who is the voice of Trunks
Trunks.
from Dragon Ball Z. And he's also the voice of Shigaraki from My Hero Academia. He basically was like, "Hey, one of y'all want to try reading some lines like in a booth?" And she's like, "That sounds cool." And so like he like put her in the booth, and he was like, "You're actually really good.
Actually,
Leave
yeah.
your information at the front desk. We want to
Yeah,
like
that
work
is
with
so
you."
wild. Yeah.
And so
That's
she
so
kind of
sick.
like just fell into it. But I want to tell people that's like a one in a
Yeah,
million
yeah,
chance.
yeah,
That's
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
probably
yeah.
not
That's
gonna
not
be,
you. Yeah, probably.
yeah.
most people, and there's nothing wrong with that. Most of us, it's going to be, you're going to grind and grind and grind for probably 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even a decade. Who knows before you really start getting those consistent, those big character roles.
Yeah.
Um, And the other piece that I'd like to touch on here is that I think it's also important to recognize that while character acting is great, voice acting is such a diverse industry. There's commercials, there's radio, there's medical disclaimers, there's ebooks, there's narration. There's all sorts
Yeah,
of things that
yeah.
you can do. So don't necessarily be so gung ho and focused on like I want to be a character actor. I want to be a character actor
Mm,
that you literally starve to death because you're not doing the other types of
Yeah.
work, which was kind of the place that I found myself in. I would say probably about the first year of being like I'm a professional voice actor is I want to do character work so bad that I was neglecting the commercial component. And now the bulk of what I do is really commercial work. Commercial work is what like keeps the lights on. Like
Yeah.
commercial work is like where I make the bulk of my money. Because while I might book an anime and I'm really excited about it, I'm like, whoa, this is gonna be so cool. That's like depending on if it's not a recurring character, if it's just a one-off. That's like the lights and maybe the water for the month. Like,
Mhm.
woo, that's good. That's
Yeah.
helpful, but you're not paying your rent most of the time with that
Yeah.
money. Whereas you can do one commercial and you're like, we're good for like the next 6 months,
Oh
depending
wow.
on
Okay.
how big of the project that it is. Now, obviously, not all of them pay that well, but that just goes to show like the gap that exists between sort of the character pay and then the
Yeah.
commercial
yeah,
pay.
yeah.
So diversify, do all the things, try all the stuff, because you might think like I would be really good at this thing, and the industry will tell you what you're good at, because you'll think, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, and that's cool to try that stuff. But over time, you'll start to see what you're getting cast for most often, what you're getting picked
Mhm.
for, what are your agents sending you for, what are casting directors thinking of, and you're like, wow, I would have never imagined that I would be that kind of actor,
Mhm.
but here I am, I guess, and hey, they're paying me to do it, so I'm
Yeah.
happy to get that phone call. So,
Yeah.
What are
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's my
what are some of your favorite like roles that you did or projects that you worked on?
yeah. So I would say one of the favorite things that I would say that I worked on was actually the very first character role that I ever did. I played this character. His name was Alan Filaro. His name's Alan. And it was it's for a Steam game. It's just a very like niche sort of indie game. And it was called Sierra Ops. And I think it's like a
That's so cool. Yeah.
tactical, like maybe like
Sounds like it.
RTS.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wasn't familiar. I didn't know anything about it. And the reason why it's such a fun experience for me is because when I was trying to sort of like market myself and put my name out there, one of the things that I did was I used to make these funny kind of like silly videos about voice acting and like the struggles of being a voice actor and like the things that you learn.
Those are pretty funny,
And
dude.
and so one of them got a decent amount of traction, and I remember someone reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, I was watching your video and it was really funny, but I actually really like the sound of your voice. Would you be interested in auditioning or like, playing a part in this game?" And I was like, "Whoa, are you serious? Like I'm booking
Yeah.
a
Just
job
off
from
of a
just like,
meme. That's so cool.
yeah, I'm like making a meme on Twitter.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
like
awesome.
awesome." And so that was the first one. And so for me, I think that's my favorite because it was the first, and so it's always going to be special to me in that way.
Hell yeah.
And even if it's like super niche thing that maybe a ton of people don't ever play or ever hear, it was just cool that it got to be my first thing. And I'm sure it's probably not the most
Yeah.
polished thing I've ever done, but still, I was like, it was
Yeah,
like a
dude.
check
That's so
of
cool.
like I can do this. I can make it in this field. I'm competitive to some extent. So
That's sick,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably
dude. That's
Yeah.
so awesome.
and
I've
then
got
outside of the character component, the commercial piece, I actually got to record just this past year. Recorded a holiday commercial for Accor Hotels, which is like a big international hotel chain, and they have all sorts of different smaller chains under them and things. But I got to do this holiday commercial, and for me that was really cool because when you're trying to explain maybe voice acting to like your friends who are like around the same age as you, they can sort of get it. They're like, "Oh, anime, video games, I get it. Yeah. When you start talking about like your parents and then like their parents and stuff, they're like kind of like, "That's a job. Like you can do that. Like, is that really a thing?" And so to be able to be like, "Hey, here's like a commercial that you all would understand that would like relate to you. Here's a
That's
product
really
that you get."
interesting. Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, "Oh, I'm the voice of like a hotel chain." People are like, "Oh, Hey, that's
That
cool.
sounds legitimate.
That's
I thought I
legitimate. Yeah.
recognized you.
Yeah. So we'll give you that stamp of approval. So that was really cool being able to like share that with my mom and dad and for them to be able to be like, look at my son. He's like doing this, which is really cool. I'm
Yeah.
sure they would do the same thing when it came to the anime stuff, but it just wouldn't resonate the same way
Yeah.
with maybe that demographic.
All
Yeah,
right, your son's a
yeah.
weirdo playing
They
cartoon
show their
characters.
50,
Okay.
60-year-old friend. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Steven, it looks like you got something to ask.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that obviously is prevalent in a lot of voice actors is sort of having a little bag, doesn't matter how big or small it is, of characters that you've curated. So how many, like, without using them, but like, how many characters have you got in your bag? Would you say?
What I got in my bag, and I have no problem doing it. I love doing voices.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to give us a little demo, I mean,
For me, I would probably say consistently there's probably about 3 or 4 that I would say that I like go to when I'm like reading a script and I'm like, okay, this is this version of Eli, this version of Eli, this version of this, right? And then you can pitch up, pitch down, maybe change the cadence a little bit here or there. But yeah, I would say there's probably about 3 or 4 where I'll start. And again, that's just me. There's some people who have a tremendous range, right? There's some folks who like they're like, I got like 30, 40 different things I could pull out of my wazoo like at any moment. That's not me. I'm not that guy. I am much less of a shotgun and much more of a high-powered precision rifle. Like
ooh.
I got the thing that I'm good at, and if you need that guy, call me. I will nail that every single time.
Yeah, that's like,
Like
well,
for-
like Chris Sabat or something. It's like most people know him for one voice because he does that so well. But I
Yeah.
also love him for like Armstrong and stuff, where he's going
Yeah.
so the other direction, like being so camp and stuff. So like I do like it when people that have one voice flip it. I really like
I
that.
get so excited
Yeah.
when I see him. Like I just got done with Whole Cake for One Piece, and now we're going into Wano, and I'm like, my boy Zoro's coming back. I'm so excited.
Yeah, Savage is gosh, and I love him as all my like favorite character just across the board. So, and he's a tremendously talented actor.
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, I think again like that specificity piece is more so what I have learned over the years of hey, don't kill yourself trying to be a Swiss Army knife. It's cool if you got that and that comes
Sure.
naturally to you, but figure out that thing, that or maybe handful of things that you're really good at to sort of build your base. And then the great thing about it is the more that you sort of have built that base and people know that you're consistent and reliable in those things that you can do, then you get really cool opportunities to try new stuff because they're like, okay, we know that you can do this, but can you
Sure,
also
yeah,
do
yeah.
this? Like, oh yeah, let you give it a shot. Whereas if you're just like kind of maybe sort of just middle of the road with all of those things, you're like, well, I don't really know if we would want to maybe use this person because we've got someone who's really, really good at this one thing.
That
And
makes
you're like,
sense. Yeah, carve out that niche.
Yeah.
yeah, the niche component. One of the things that I've really wanted to do that I feel like I just don't get a lot of auditions for it because it is niche work is creature work. I
Oh,
I really
man.
want the
Yeah.
opportunity to do those creature voices.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Damn.
To the audience in that way.
Oh, that's so sick.
That
And so,
sounded
like, I
like
want-
that was like Claw from Inspector Gadget. Like,
Oh yeah.
that was dope.
And so I want the chance.
That seems
to
like a lot
do-
of fun.
Yeah, to do those sorts of things, but I
Yeah.
know that you've got to prove yourself in every other aspect first, right? Like
Mm.
that's not really like your first dice roll. You get to just be the creature
Yeah,
guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly,
I wouldn't
though,
know
that kind
really,
of
but-
stuff has sounded like it would be the most fun, being like the bad guy, being
Yeah.
like this demonic
Well,
creature, you know?
That's one thing that's just awesome about like where careers can come from. But that, like, I'm sure a fair few people have read it or heard it. But Bryan Cranston starting out as like being in the suits for
Yeah.
Power Rangers and stuff,
Yeah.
like being
Oh,
the
wow.
bad guys, like it's just crazy.
Yeah. pretty
Yeah,
cool stuff.
and people don't think about that stuff, that component of just Oh gosh, what is it? I think about I say this to myself all the time. Have y'all played Final Fantasy X? I'm gonna assume it's
Oh,
not that much of a leap, right?
love
Right? You
it.
played Final
You and
Fantasy
Caden are gonna be best
Played it
friends, I
like 10
swear.
times.
Okay, so there's this might be hyper specific, but there's a point in the game Final Fantasy X where you're about to do Operation Mihin. You're about to try to attack Sin with that Machina weapon, and they're like, "Oh, we don't know if it's
Yeah.
gonna work." And there's that character Gata, the guy with the ponytail from
Hmm.
Besaid, and he's like, "I'm stuck here at the command center. I like want to go out
Yeah.
and prove myself." And Oren's like, "If you want to prove yourself, first you have to complete the task you're given." And I tell
Yeah.
myself that all the time. Like, you have to complete the task you were given. No one's
Yeah.
going to trust you to do anything more important if you cannot excel at the things that we are giving you right now. And I think that that's probably the best piece of advice that I could give to a starting voice actor, someone that wants to do the voiceover work. Why am I not getting lead roles? Why am I not getting booked to be like in The Simpsons and these
Yeah.
huge projects and these things? And it's like, crush the stuff that's in front of you right now. If you excel at that and you just do it consistently, I promise you that big stuff will come down the line. But to turn your nose up at it and be like, I don't, gosh, I'm tired of just doing this. I don't want to just do this. Be happy that you're getting work. Like, work is so hard to come by, especially now with how
Yep.
saturated things are becoming across the board. Just be happy that you're getting work and excel at that work, and those opportunities will come later. So,
Yeah.
Man, I
Yeah.
thought this
Yeah.
interview was gonna be all about Radiata Stories, and we're
In
talking
a
about
different
voice acting
direction.
and stuff. Dude,
Yeah.
We hit the life lessons from Final Fantasy X. Got it.
But that's the thing there's so much in that, because in that Final Fantasy X piece, there's an Icarus storyline there where if you encourage him, he doesn't make
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah. Is that the
yeah.
same guy that, like, after the battle, he's basically
He's
having, like,
traumatized.
yeah, he's like,
Yes,
what's going on? Because,
yeah,
like,
that's the
Ludwig
same guy.
got
Yeah.
killed.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, dude.
And
He's,
Well,
he's doing his best Bill Paxton impression from Aliens.
and
yeah.
sort of speaking to Steven's point is you actually will see that happen sometimes with actors. I've heard that story of, the sort of Icarus component, right? They're like, oh, I just want to be in this huge project. I want to do this thing. And they get thrust into it too early. They get put into that big role just because of happenstance or something happens and they find themselves in that spot. And then maybe the performance anxiety gets to them, the imposter syndrome gets to them, and they underperform. And then they've got their first experience of sort of being on the internet in front of people is people talking about how much they hate their performance, how horrible they were. Oh my gosh, they were so bad. Da, 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 da. And they're like, and so now they're dealing with this wave of negativity and they have to sort of question themselves in this way because maybe they were put in a position that they weren't ready for. And maybe it's not even the backlash from the public. Maybe it's just they felt really uncomfortable in the session because the director was asking them to do things that they just were not capable of doing and they weren't
Yeah.
ready for it. And that's a terrible feeling. It's like basically it feels like standing naked in front of someone. Like when you're asked to like perform on the spot and you can't
Yeah,
do it,
you're
you're
like,
just like
Yeah.
yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, that sucks. Well,
Well,
man, I really appreciate you sharing your journey with us. It just, I was kind of shocked to learn like you didn't do any of that stuff in high school, and like you just felt the call to go to Texas, and then you're like, this is what I want to do, and you made it happen. And it's amazing to hear that the voice acting community seems to be extremely open and helpful to newcomers and helped you so much. That's so cool. And thanks for all the tips and everything for anybody who might be listening and interested. Um, Before we move on, if you just want to give us a quick like elevator pitch for Revive Radiata and your Kingdom Hearts YouTube channel and where people can find that stuff.
Sorry, I totally forgot about those two things.
No, it's okay.
So it's funny because I up to this point I've really tried to keep those three things separate. And again, I don't mind talking about them all together. And because my mindset was I wanted all three of those things to be able to stand independently of one another. I never
Sure.
wanted people to be like, oh, I'm going to support Revive Radiata because I really like you as a voice actor, or I'm going to go
Mm.
check out your Kingdom Hearts stuff because I love Radiata Stories. Obviously, that's going to happen naturally. But again, I think that if you've got a solid project, if you've got a solid concept, it will be able to stand on its own in that way. So when it comes to Revive Radiata, so I'm a huge Radiata Stories fan. My favorite video game of all time. Has a very sentimental connection to me. So both my parents were in the military. My mom was in the Navy, and my dad was in the Navy as well. My mom did 20 years in the Navy, and
Wow.
so I remember she got out of she retired when I was in eighth grade. And I remember when she got out, when she got home from deployment, she was like, she's kind of basically like my entire upbringing. She's only been able to spend like 6 months at a time with her son. So she's like
Yeah.
deployed, and then she's
Yeah.
she's deployed, and she's home. So she's kind of missed like half of my adolescence up to that point, right? So she doesn't really know a ton about the things that I like and that I'm interested in. She's just trying to like piece it all together. She's like, I know that he kind of likes his anime stuff and he likes these video games, and I'm just gonna support him in that way. And so then when she retired, I remember she was at the Navy Exchange, which is kind of just like a all-encompassing store where we have all sorts of things. Think of it like a
Cool.
Sears, Walmart, Target, mega
Sure.
combo.
Yeah.
So she's walking through, and so there's this big display. Well, not big, but like a decent display for Radiata Stories. And she was looking at it, and she's like, "This looks interesting. Like this looks cool. I think my son might like this." And so she's like, "I saw this game that I thought you might like," and she was like, "So I wanted to get it for you." And so it was just so touching that like my mom, who just like came back, was like, "I want to
That's
connect with my
beautiful.
son. I know he likes video games. I'm gonna get this game for him." So one, I love JRPGs, but your mom gets it for you, so you're gonna put like your heart and
Yeah.
soul into
Special
like
sauce. Yeah.
doing everything in this game. And of course, it just also happened to be really fun and enjoyable for me. And I played, gosh, probably like 120 plus hours, like my first outing. Like I did New Game
Nice.
Plus like 3 or 4
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
I loved it,
I
and it
think
blew
my
my mind.
favorite part of this game right now is that nobody just went to the store to get it. They've got like this wholly unique
Like
way
a
of
magical,
acquiring.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
a
like I
mythic,
walked through the
like,
closet, and
there
guess
was an
what?
old Chinese man.
He's like, here,
Yeah.
try this game. It's like, oh, what
Don't
is
spill
this?
water on it after midnight.
Yeah. And so I remember thinking to myself, like, I couldn't believe how much they had managed to pack onto a PlayStation 2 disc. Because what I remember thinking to
Yeah.
myself, and again, I'm like a middle schooler, but even still, I was able to be like, this seems like a lot, because people talk about at that time like a day and night cycle was like, ooh, like that's
Yeah.
that's cool. Like you guys have a day and night cycle, but then you start talking about like NPCs with like a daily schedule. There's games now that
Ahead
haven't
of its
figured that
time,
out.
dude. Yeah, way ahead of its time.
Like there's
And done
games
it
now where
better than games that do it today,
yeah,
Yeah.
there's games you'll play where the NPCs now will have like one line of dialogue that they'll just repeat every single time, and it won't change throughout the story. They're always standing in that exact same spot. Radiata Stories was the first time I'd ever played a game where it was like you could see an NPC, you could literally follow them around throughout their entire day to night cycle. They'd have a different thing to say while they're eating lunch. They have a different thing to say while they're training. They have a different thing to say when they're at the grocery store. They have a different thing to say when they're out in the field exploring. And then every so often, just by happenstance of you following them around, they're like, "Hey, can I join your party? You seem interesting," or like, "Let's fight," and then you would recruit these characters, and it's like the ability to look at someone and be like, "I can have that person as a follower. I can have that person join my team." That's really cool
It's
because
sick, yeah.
I think we were talking about this before. Maybe that. Well, anyway, I don't want to maybe spoil if it was going to come up later in the show. But just talking about like we've all had that experience where there's an NPC that we think is really cool. We're like, man, why is that not like a party member? Why is that not a
Yeah.
playable character? Why is that not more involved?
Sure.
Radiata Stories gives you that. If you see someone, you're like, they look really cool. There's like a 98% chance that you can recruit that person and have them on your
Yeah.
team.
That's so
And
sad.
like that's just such a cool feeling that a lot of
Yeah.
video games do not give you. And so for me, the Revive Radiata project was, I remember thinking about Radiata Stories one day. I was going home for Thanksgiving. I really wanted to play it. I was going to dust off my PS2 and just, have a great trip down memory lane. And I thought to myself, I cannot believe that this game has not been remastered, re-released. I can't believe it's not like a PlayStation Classic. Like, what is going on? Because clearly there was a lot of love and work put into this thing. So I don't
Yep.
understand. Because I think about there's some games that are available now, and this is no shade towards anyone else's favorite thing. There's some games that are available now on PlayStation Plus or Switch or Xbox, and like sort of the classics catalog, and you're like,
Yeah, like
classic to who?
Fantavision? Really?
Like this,
Like,
because when people argue with me, or not argue, but people will like, well, why are Radiata Stories is so niche? I'm like, you're talking about a game that sold almost like 500,000 units. Like that's pretty good by
at
most
that
video
time,
game
yeah.
standards.
A new
Yeah, like at that
IP from Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about something with no brand recognition just coming out. Like, there's some games now that are like that. New IP, no brand recognition. They don't sell 500,000 units,
You
and
know,
so it's just like,
they could announce a remaster of the game and people would think it's a new IP.
yeah,
Yeah, no one would know about it.
yeah.
That's hilarious.
You
Yeah.
could do that. You could quite literally just release Radiata Stories, right? Maybe upscale the
Yeah.
graphics a little bit and just
Mhm.
present it as a brand new thing. And I bet you people be like, "This is so creative!
Yep.
Wow!
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe
It was
this is
just
all."
ahead of its time, man.
Yeah.
The world wasn't ready.
That's what I think. I think that it was the window is really what killed Radiata Stories. It's like you're arguing with Dragon Quest 8, Kingdom Hearts 2, Final Fantasy 12. You're coming out in that JRPG era. If you don't have a
Yeah.
huge marketing budget behind you, the chances of you getting any sort of attention over those three projects is just, yeah. So it was the window, I think, that killed it. It was really the window.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's my piece. Revive Radiata. It is a petition that I started. I say we because we've got a great group of people that support and retweet and share and tell their friends and family about Radiata Stories. We've got a Twitter page. We've got our petition page on change.org. It's just, you can search Revive Radiata petition or Radiata Stories petition and it'll come up. Heck, you can just Google Radiata Stories. It's like the 8th result now. It's
Yeah.
and so it's not anything about, I'm not demanding anything. I'm not screaming from the rooftops.
Oh
Like,
yeah, it's wholesome.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
a
it hasn't been
wholesome.
remastered yet. Maybe you need to demand
You're not
it.
aggressive
Maybe
enough,
you do
Eli.
need to scream from the rooftops. We need Radiata. We need more of it. We need it now.
Yeah, so maybe the aggressive approach, but I think for me, I try to keep things even keel because I've seen it. When people want something from video games, it can become very toxic very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's I don't want my very special like love and thing to be tainted with that. So I try to keep things as like upbeat and fun and positive as possible. So yeah, that's Revive Radiata. Check out Radiata Stories. Go support. We'd love to have you. If you've never played it, I know that emulation is like a thing, like a gray area. Whatever
Yeah.
means you can find to play it, or if you want to watch a let's play or playthrough or whatever that might be, go find some way to experience it. You will have a good time. At the very least, it might not be something like this is the greatest game ever, but I promise you will chuckle at least a little.
Sick, dude.
Don't-
I just wanted to say,
Don't
oh, sorry, go.
don't download a good PS2 emulator for your Steam Deck and play it right now.
Don't. Wait.
Don't do it.
Don't you do it. Yeah.
Don't
Cool,
do
cool,
it.
cool, yeah. So, and then a little bit about your Kingdom Hearts channel. It's a very interesting project.
Oh,
Real
yes,
quick,
yes,
because
yes.
we're really running long on
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's
Thank you,
okay.
Yoda, for keeping us accountable. Just,
Yeah,
you go to plug it, see where people can find it. A little elevator pitch.
Yeah. So I've got a series called Kingdom Hearts Remake: How I'd Rewrite Kingdom Hearts. The way that started, first ice storm that we got in Texas, we were frozen in, had no power, nothing to do. I was bored. I thought to myself, man, if I rewrote Kingdom Hearts, how would I do it? Oh, that's an interesting idea. I was frozen in the house for 2 days, no power. I thought to myself, okay, when we get power back on, I think I'm going to record just the first segment of this, put it out there, see how it goes. It got traction, and I was like, wow, people actually really like this. Okay, I guess I'll continue the series. And really what it started as, in addition to just an idea that I had, it was an excuse for me to get more time behind the microphone because I was trying to become better at voice acting.
Oh,
Like at the
okay.
very least,
clever.
I was like, if everyone hates it, it's the worst thing ever, then it's the worst thing ever. But that's 20, 30, 40 additional hours of microphone practice that I'm going to get.
Yeah,
That are
man.
gonna make me better at narration, character acting, emoting, all that good stuff. So the Kingdom Hearts Remake series, it is a series that I have on YouTube. You can go watch it right now on my YouTube channel, Eli Farmer, or you can just search KH Remake. It'll probably pop up. We're on episode 10 now. We're finishing up the big finale around the Kingdom Hearts 2 era. I'm going to go through all the games eventually. But yeah, so it's a cool series. We talk about all kinds of lore and what if scenarios, and I try to incorporate a little bit more Final Fantasy into there as well. But yeah, so that's my fun side project. I enjoy it. I love it. I love the Kingdom Hearts community. And yeah, go check it out.
It's so
Sick. All
awesome.
right. Well, thank you so much for enduring all of our questions, Eli. Now that we all know each other, it's time for the debate.
Ooh.
All right, welcome back to the debate. We have a fun one inspired by Radiata Stories. We have a post-game debate, I guess that's how we're gonna call it. We have Eli representing New Game Plus versus Caden representing post-game content, and I think mainly like dungeons and extra
Sure.
loot and stuff that you can get. We have our 3 segments: our opening, that's 2 minutes; our rebuttal, that's 2 minutes; and our closing thoughts, that is 2 minutes. You each have Steven as your assist trophy, and you can call on him for an extra 30 seconds. Eli, as our guest, would you like to start or close the debate?
Ooh, I'll take the close.
Take the close. All right.
He's gathering battle data.
Gathering battle data. Caden, you've got 2 minutes on the clock. Are you ready, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. 3, 2, 1, debate.
All right, talk about post-game content here. I'm focusing the lens a little bit on post-game dungeons. I want to give a special shout out to PS2 era JRPGs, lots of Square Enix games, Tri-Ace games, Radiata Stories, Star Ocean, Final Fantasy, killing the game with post-game dungeons that these days you'd have to pay $20 for DLC. They package it in right in there, you know. I will take us through the post-game dungeons specifically of Radiata Stories as an example of like just incredible post-game content. So after you finish the story proper, kill the final boss, credits roll, you get a special post-game save file with a little star on it, and you check your fast travel point, and you're like, wait a second, there's like a new fast travel point that I've never seen before on the world map. You go there, you're in this super weird, new, interesting place called Dragon Lair Caverns, and the developers possess the main character's body to talk directly to you, and they're like, hey, this is a secret post-game area that's like super hard and challenging, and the rules of reality don't apply here. And Jack's like, what just came out of my mouth? So you start exploring the dungeon, and in the story of Radiata Stories, there's these 4 dragons that represent the 4 elements that are like fundamental pillars of reality. And just for fun in the dungeon, they just let you like go through this dungeon and find the lairs of the 4 dragons and just get to fight them and kill them. Just
30
for fun.
seconds.
And once you complete this post-game dungeon, there's a super boss at the end of this dungeon that's a hilarious like paper mache flat dragon called Radian. And when you defeat this dragon, it unlocks a second post-game dungeon, a post-game dungeon called Distortion Corridor that's like a David Bowie Labyrinth style maze. And you like fight the spirit of your dead father. You fight bosses that are characters from other Tri-Ace games. It's
Time.
amazing.
Ooh. Right there on the money, Caden. Great opener. All right, Eli.
Thank you.
Time for your opening thoughts. How are you feeling after that?
I'm ready.
He's ready. All right. Starting your New Game Plus debate in 3, 2, 1, debate.
Awesome. Okay, so New Game Plus. I won't be maybe as focused on the Radiata Stories component, but just talking a little bit more broad when it comes to New Game Plus. New Game Plus for me is the great equalizer for all folks who have ever struggled while playing through a game. You have that boss that just took you and just railroaded you and just made you cry as like a child or a middle schooler or even as an adult. And then you get to come back through with your level 99 character, the best gear in the game, new unlocks, new abilities, and you get to feel the power and being like, you did it to me and now I get to do it to you.
Yeah.
That feeling of being like, now I'm the boss, now I'm in control. But also there's this component of when it comes to the post-game component or dungeons or content, that stuff can be done excellent and well before the game is over. Final Fantasy X is a perfect example of this. You can go to the Omega Ruins, you can fight the hardest super bosses in the game. All of this can happen before you even go inside of Sin to take on the final boss and go to the post-game. So you can have great extra content, you can have great side bosses, you can do all of those things, and you can do it before the game ends. So why make it post-game content when you can just make it side content, side quest, right? And the New Game Plus, you can do all of these extra things again, round 2, but bigger, better, harder, faster. And this really sort of came into my brain when I played through Kingdom Hearts 3 for the first time, and after I finished it, and they're like, oh, you can play through again with all your Keyblades unlocked. And so getting to go through with the ultimate weapon from the start is a feeling that nothing else can match, and that's where I close my argument.
Ooh, leaving 25
Nice.
seconds on the table.
A little bit intimidated. Strong.
Oh man,
strong
that was a
argument.
very strong opener. All right,
Yeah,
Caden.
the power fantasy.
Caden, you got 2 minutes on the clock for your rebuttal. Are you ready, sir?
Yes, sir.
3,
Yes, sir.
2, 1, debate.
All right, so I guess I'll push back against the power fantasy thing, which is a valid playstyle. But for people like me, God, it sounds so elitist to say that. I'm really not trying to sound elitist, but I prefer like a challenge or a play video. I like games to push back a little bit, and I've never really enjoyed New Game Plus for that reason, because most games, there are exceptions. I think of like hard mode New Game Plus and Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example. But most games, you're just playing the same exact game through again, but you're just completely overpowered and there's just like no challenge, and it kind of just feels like you're just going through on rails, just smashing everything. But I guess a lens to kind of look through for me would be From Software Souls games, Elden Ring, Dark Souls. Those games have a pretty like robust New Game Plus system where it like escalates every time you do New Game Plus, and the enemies do more damage, they have more HP. But I've never actually played New Game Plus on Dark Souls, because for me, like the joy of an RPG experience is like conceptualizing the character build and realizing it through playing through the game. And once you've got to the end of a game like Dark Souls or other RPGs, you've kind of reached the ceiling of what your character is. There's no more room for growth. So then when you start the game over again, it's like there's nowhere to go. So I do replay Dark Souls and Souls-like games a lot. I just don't go into New Game Plus. I just start a new save file. I come up with a different character build idea, and I enjoy like the process of building that character up and
30 seconds.
topping them out. Let's see here. I think I'll concede the rest of my time.
All right,
Yeah.
leaving 30
I
seconds.
feel complete with that argument.
All right,
I like it.
all right. I just saw a spider go down my wall, so that's fun. I don't know where it went. It's fine. I'm bigger than him, right?
We'll see it crawling across your face later in the show.
Eli, you've got 2 minutes on the clock for your rebuttal. 3, 2, 1, debate.
Awesome. Okay, so to counter the piece of more of the same, right? We have games where there's 2 protagonists. We have games where there's multiple playthroughs, there's multiple routes. So when you talk about a game, we all love Radiata Stories, right? So you talk about a game where there's 2 distinct paths, right? There's maybe the good guy path or the bad guy path, or even more a broad example, Fable. Imagine Fable with the New Game Plus. Actually, does Fable have New Game Plus? I don't know if it does. Maybe it does. Anyway, so imagine the original Fable with New Game Plus, right? You could go through the whole game as a good guy, make all the good moral decisions, and just have that experience. And then maybe you could go through on the second time, and if you like the challenge, we're talking about the possibilities here, right? If you like the challenge, you could opt to maybe not carry over your superpowered gear, but maybe open up your stat tree or something like that. And you can make all the bad guy decisions. And so you get to have 2 different experiences while still having some carryover from one to the other. I also think about the potential of this in something like a Pokemon game. So I love Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Those are my favorite ones ever. There's 2 regions in that game. Imagine if you play through the entire Johto region, and then on New Game Plus, you could start, if you could choose to start whether you want to start in Kanto or Johto. And then maybe you could start in the Kanto region with the option to start with Gen 3 and Gen 4 Pokemon. So the difficulty curve is the exact same, but now you're getting more variety, a completely different experience that you didn't have the first time, but you're carrying your knowledge through that first playthrough.
30 seconds.
So the first playthrough is kind of like an appetizer course, and then the second New Game Plus is really the main entree. So, and I'm going to just pop my assist trophy, just cuz.
All right, Steven. You got 30 seconds on the clock, buddy. 3, 2, 1, go.
So the best thing, obviously, about New Game Plus, like that post game just doesn't have, is the immediate potential of taking something like the rocket launcher, which is a single-use item, and
15
making
seconds.
it infinite. Then also, oh my god, how many other good things are there? There's so many good things. That's it. Slapping a boss in Dark Souls, like just one-shotting something that took you out, is just phenomenal. Phenomenal feeling.
Time. Eli, you still have 20 seconds on the clock. You want to use it?
Oh, I still have 20 seconds. Oh my gosh. Whoa. Okay, so it's like bonus time. All right, I misunderstood. Great. And so then I would say when it comes to the New Game Plus component, there is an opportunity to do different character builds. So if you're someone who loves maybe like the Fallout series or Elder Scrolls series, New Game Plus, you can try a different route, different build, and you can carry over maybe some of that super rare loot that you got from your first playthrough that you wouldn't normally be able to get on one playthrough.
Time. Oh.
Hey.
I'm really upset. This is just the behind the scenes. I was quickly looking up what it means to be, like, what the title of it is, to be sexually attracted to numbers, and it only came up with number sexual, and I was a bit upset. Because I was going to talk about, like, Borderlands New Game Plus.
Oh,
and
okay.
it went out of my brain just instantly the moment, like, you were like, oh, it's me, oh,
All right, Caden, I got 2 minutes on the clock for you sorry, I gotta write this timestamp down.
All right, and I guess I'll just be ending with my Stephen trophy, whatever you want to talk about. Steven.
Okay, end with the assist trophy. Steven, I'll call you in. All right.
Pay attention.
With the rebuttal, with the closing thoughts, Caden, 3, 2, 1, debate.
All right, Eli, I have to say it was an interesting move of you to fantasize about how cool it would be to play in the Johto region in Gold and Silver. The Kanto region as a New Game Plus, because you can do that as post-game content in those games. So, another point, just to kind of bring it together for post-game content, just again on, my preference of being challenged by games. I feel like the post-game content is where, if you want to continue to engage with like the highest level of the game systems in a game, like that's where you're doing a post-game content. It creates a space for the developers to create challenges that push your understanding of the game systems to the limit to be able to complete them. Again, something like Radiata Stories, like you're not gonna beat the final boss of the post-game dungeons in Radiata Stories if you don't have the best characters and they're level 99 and they have the best skills and you've got the best healing items. It's just not going to happen. And also for New Game Plus, I just love it when developers are able to use it as a space to wrap up the aftermath of the story, because usually the climax comes, you beat the bad guy, you kill God in the JRPG, and you save the world. Credits roll. But I think of stuff like Dragon Quest VIII and Dragon Quest XI, where you can stop playing when credits roll. You've got a complete experience you can feel good about. You can move on to the next game. But if you want to, both those games have a post-game dungeon that reveals more about the main character's backstory and kind of takes you to that finish line of, after the climax, you get to see the characters hang up the sword and settle down. And,
Time. Steven, go ahead, close it out.
Yeah, so obviously one of the biggest pillars of post game is stuff like any online game, but also like Monster Hunter. The game starts in the post game, and that's where you get the best content. That's where, and getting a New Game Plus where you're just OP and killing like a scrub isn't going to get you that satisfaction that post game does. And then obviously, Heart Gold Soul Silver has one of probably the best post games ever. Going up to a ... red and defeating a level 80 Pikachu.
Very good.
Phew.
Right. Eli, you've got 2 minutes on the clock. Are you ready to close out the debate?
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, debate.
Beautiful. Okay, so we talked a bit about the challenge component, right? New Game Plus is basically like the power fantasy. You go through and you get to just say, I'm so much better than you, I'm so much stronger than you, look at me, and here's my payback. There is that piece, there's that feeling that you can have. But then when we turn to a game, say like a Ratchet and Clank, for example, when you do challenge mode, when you play through the second time, the bosses are stronger. They will kill you faster. It is a experience where you get to play as essentially a glass cannon. You can take them out in a couple shots, but they can also take you out in a couple shots. So it's a thrill, it's an experience that you don't get in the base game, because for many fans, it would be too difficult for a casual playthrough experience. But that is your reward. You get this heightened difficulty, but you also get this heightened power that comes with it as well. And you get the extended experience of playing it over the entire campaign. Whereas I would say most post games are usually condensed. If you're lucky, you might get an additional 6 hours of content out of a post game, whereas with a new game plus, that's an additional 40 hours on your adventure that you get to experience again. Now, some folks might say, I'm tired of the dialogue, but then you can do really fun things like Radiata Stories, for example, where when you go through the tutorial, they actually will joke about, I already know all of this stuff. Why am I doing this? You're right, you do know all that stuff. So it's an opportunity for the developers to insert gags and jokes about, hey, you're doing this a second time. We know that. We're going to actually cater to that and insert some new
30
dialogue.
seconds.
So you're getting a new experience, you're getting to try something different, and you can add in a challenge for yourself in that way if you so choose. So that's the beauty of New Game Plus. But I would also like to end by saying post-game content is also amazing. And really, we all win when we meet the intersection of both. That's
Aww.
Wow, leaving 10 seconds on the table and being wholesome at the end.
Yep.
What a
Man of the
gentleman.
people.
All right, it's time for the voting round.
It's a tough one.
This is such a good debate.
Close.
Steven, I want to hear your thoughts. Let's go.
I'm torn. I'm super torn because
Yeah.
Resident Evil Revelations 1 has some of the best New Game Plus because it
Resident
has the
Evil in general.
it has
Yeah.
the loadout system of like RE5, 6, Operation Raccoon City and 2 and stuff like that, where you just put an upgrade on a weapon and then you can swap them out. The coolest thing about Revs 1 is they didn't code it so that you could only get one of those. If you replayed it, you can get that level 3 upgrade again and again. So every time you replay it, your weapons are just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. It was so dope. But like, oh man, post game, the biggest gripe I have with secret bosses and then also having stuff like Ultimate Weapon and stuff is if you get the secret weapon just before the final boss, you just make the final boss easy and you don't have a cool thing to do with the secret weapon. Like Attack of the Saiyans is a perfect example where you get to collect the Dragon Balls in Attack of the Saiyans and you can choose to either have an amazing weapon, a heap of money, or fight someone really strong. And so if you choose the amazing weapon, it's just an upgrade and then you just destroy Vegeta because it's only the Saiyan arc. But if you choose the strong enemy, it's Super Saiyan 2 or Ascended Saiyan Broly against Yamcha, Krillin, and freaking normal Goku, and it's just an insane fight. You've got to be level 99 to beat it. But I'm just like, why couldn't they just give me the item and then I can do Broly in the post game?
Yeah, you need a reason to use those items.
You need a reason to use those items. So
Yeah.
I really think post game, and when I think about Heart Gold Soul Silver, oh man, that is one of my favorite games of all time. It's so hard. I'm gonna side with post game because the idea of having those ultimate weapons and having something to use it against is just that little bit tastier. But I love Resident Evil New Game Plus.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, so going into this, I was like, I don't know what to expect. I like a little bit of both of these things. They're both fun. Going and seeing some new stuff post game is fun, but like what really hits it home for me is getting that infinite ammo, no reload, never-ending gun in Resident Evil, just blasting everything. I'm gonna have to go New Game Plus with it. Eli brought the fire in the debate. It was so good.
Yeah.
Man, this might be like one of my top 3 debates that we've ever had.
Yeah.
It's been so good.
It's going to be a tight one in the votes for sure. But like, yeah, the Chicago typewriter, and instead of reloading, you just tilt your hat.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. But yeah. And you know what? We're gonna move on with last week's debate that was a debate, and it was Kingdom Hearts 1 versus Kingdom Hearts 2.
We had Eli on last week.
Yeah, we should have had Eli on last week too. Eli, you want to be on every week just to debate games?
Hey man, put me in, coach.
It was Kingdom Hearts 1 represented by our friend Kai versus Caden, who represented Kingdom Hearts 2. Inching it out by 1 point was our man, Caden Berthay Lane, representing Kingdom Hearts 2. And if you guys would like to vote for this debate, which we need the votes for, this was an insane debate. You can vote on the Cast Your Votes channel on the Discord, and we'll have the results on the next episode. And with that, we'll move on to the pitch.
All right, dear listeners, we have returned for the pitch, wherein one to all of our panelists may have a 2-minute elevator pitch for a mystery game they've been playing, and the rest of the panelists will decide if they would buy the game based off of the pitch. First up to the pitcher's mound is Jonah Gomez. Are you ready for your countdown, sir?
I am very ready.
All right, 2 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, 1, pitch.
Do you know what I love? Love my Switch. I absolutely adore that thing. It is so fun to have around. It is super fun, and it's portable, you know? You can play it on your main screen, or you can take it on the go and play it wherever you want. And the quality doesn't change. Except it does. The worst part about the Switch is the Joy-Cons. They are always drifting. They suck. As much as I love the Switch, the Joy-Cons suck. So I'm here today to pitch to you gentlemen an alternative. And Steven thinks he knows what I'm talking about, but he doesn't. And I know we're supposed to make it kind of a surprise, but I just can't, because I gotta show you guys these. These are the Bin Bog Joy-Cons. They work the same as the Joy-Cons that got Rumble. You can connect them, you can play them wirelessly, they have the gyro in them. And you know what? You can turn on the Switch, and they got RGB on the sticks, baby.
Sith style.
They are so good. They have back buttons on the back, creating a nice click.
Man.
They got bigger sticks. They fit in your hands. I feel like I'm holding a controller, an Xbox controller split in two right now. It is fantastic. They even have the side buttons, so you can play 2-player like this. They're so good. Like I said, customizable RGB rings in the sticks. The buttons are bigger. They're nice and clicky and tactile. I love everything. They wake up the Switch when you turn them on. And that's my pitch.
I have one question for you, Jonah.
Yes.
How much are they paying you?
I wish they were paying me. The nice thing is, when I paid them for these better Joy-Cons are cheaper than one Joy-Con.
That's a mic drop.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear anymore. I mean, I'm in. I got the replacement Joy-Con kit. I've got my micro tools. I've got a disassembled Joy-Con here. I had to personally manually replace my Joy-Con joysticks, and that, it's a design flaw. So the new sticks that I've put in, they're working now, but after a period of time they will drift again, and I'll have to replace them again. And I'm just sitting here giving the stink eye to my Joy-Con, and I really want whatever you got over there.
Yeah, I mean, together these are 56 USD, and they come with the little thing that you can slide on to connect them as a whole controller, and
they look nice, chunky.
It's just as comfortable as playing with the Pro controller.
Let me get a zoom in on how fat the R1 and R2 buttons are. Let me see those. Ooh, look how fat those are. They're like little skinny strips on the Joy-Con.
Yeah.
And it looks like so much more supportive to actually hold.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
they're super
Yeah.
comfortable. They don't wiggle too much when they're on the Switch itself, and like the button to take them off is tucked away so you don't accidentally push it. You have to like get your finger in there to push it to take it off. And
The
like
back
when they're on,
buttons,
they're locked in. They're not sliding off. I remember my original Joy-Cons. I could just like grab it and push it a little bit and
Yeah.
pop off.
yeah.
Oh no.
Now, I know you had the Hori Split Pad Pro because you told me to get it, and
Mhm.
I did get it.
Uh-oh.
And obviously, the biggest weakness is they're not Joy-Cons and they don't have rumble. So, if I would say the comfort is obviously a 10 on those Horis, but like maybe it's got an 8 out of 10 rating. What would you rate these bad
I would say they're just as comfortable, if not maybe a little bit more comfortable. Like they feel almost identical. With the Hori, the bottom sticks out a little more right here.
Okay. Get a little more.
But
grip.
like I mean these like fit in nice, and like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that have little hands don't like the bigger Pro Controller style Joy-Cons. They have smaller versions of these that are closer to the OG
Okay.
Joy-Con, but they
Does
still
it-
have that grip on the back for you to hold on to.
Does it still have like the infrared like gyro motion
I
and
believe
like an
it
NFC
does.
chip
I
reader?
believe it. It doesn't have the NFC chip
Okay.
reader, so you can't use Amiibos with it. But I believe it does have the gyro controls.
Cool. Well, yeah, Eli and Steven, do you think you'd pick these
well,
up to replace a
Yeah,
Joy-Con?
I
or-
definitely buy those.
You can
I'm
get
on
them in a
a-
bunch of different colors too.
I do miss my rumble. That's like the biggest thing, and I play handheld 99% of the time.
Oh.
So for me, they're very. I'd
You
be
have
on the
buyer's
cusp.
remorse on the
It-
Hori?
No, not at
Okay.
all. I love the Hori. I would probably say maybe if like next year or whatever the Switch 2 gets like announced and then the price drops for these bad boys, then I'll probably pick them up just as like the backup set.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the unconventional hardware pitch, Jonah.
I
I don't know if
like
we ever had
it.
one of those before.
Yeah.
Next up to the pitcher's mound is, of course, our special guest this week, Eli. Are you ready for your countdown, sir?
Let's do it.
All right. 2 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, 1, pitch.
Okay, so my pitch is for a game that I've been playing recently. It is a bit of a console exclusive. It is a game that it's one where it sort of takes a lot of the traditional things that you love about a Square Enix JRPG and presents them in a way that maybe you haven't seen before. One that'll make you laugh, one that'll have some heartwarming moments, and one that doesn't take itself too seriously but is still engaging. One that throws you into a world that feels alive, one that feels like you actually are a part of it and you're not just insert character here who's going around doing fetch quests. You actually feel like you're part of a community and you become invested in the characters' lives as you play through this game. Like I said, it's console exclusive, so it's a little bit harder to come by nowadays, but if you can get your hands on it, it is a wonderful experience. It is a game that has challenge if you're looking for that at the highest levels. It is a game that has, if you're a stat maxer, you want to get to level 99 and have the best gear, the best stats, you can fulfill that fantasy. If you are someone who likes super bosses and dungeons, you've got that component. And if you're someone who likes to make choices and play through different routes, you have that option as well. There's a focus on team dynamics. So instead of maybe building out a specific character who is a different build, you can build out a different team that's a different build, has a different focus.
30 seconds.
Play through, which is really cool and exciting as well. And if you're someone that likes sort of monster catcher games or Persona games, where you have lots of different kind of characters that you cycle throughout your playthrough, it gives you that feeling as well, but instead of maybe monsters, you could do that with characters. So instead of thinking of your characters as like a person that you maximize, they're more of like a specific piece of equipment, or a gemstone or a power-up that you would change out depending on the need of the battle or the area that you're going into. And you can free flow through that, and it's a wonderful experience. Give it a try.
Ooh,
My game is
Nice.
Radiata
I got
Stories.
one big question. Is there, if you're saying that you're trading out characters like their, equipment, do you get bench XP?
Ooh, you do not get bench XP. That would be. They should do that.
Well, this game sounds suspiciously like a game that I love. So if it's anything like that game, then I'm in. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in. I'm super curious to check this out for sure.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me that you said was that it doesn't take itself too seriously, which I feel like is my biggest fault. Like, I rub up against that. Like, in a game, like all the Square Enix RPGs that have all of these, K-pop artists as the main characters, and they're just so serious about this cataclysm. I'm just like, you guys are ridiculous. Like,
Chill out,
it's-
bro.
Yeah. So, for me, like,
Yeah.
if it's say it doesn't take itself so seriously, that's why I like Kingdom Hearts, because it's dumb and fun. Like,
Yeah, it's a good time.
Cool. So,
Yeah, so I'd be in if it
Nice.
was available.
Yeah.
do you have a PS2 and $40 and an eBay account? Since nobody cares about this game, it's surprisingly cheap on eBay.
Yeah, wow. That's all right.
But
All right,
the prices are going up in some places though, so you should get on it quick.
Eli, do you want to
Yeah.
reveal what the game is?
Oh, it's Radiata Stories. Woo!
Hey, I love that game. I just got like so hyped and excited about Radiata Stories after Eli, you agreeing to be on the show that in between now and when you agreed to be on the show, I completed another playthrough.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
dope.
Yeah, I just finished it last week. Just holds up. Love it. Played
it
it on.
does.
I did not, Wink, play it on the PC with an emulator. But, yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Eli and Jonah, for your game and hardware pitches.
Can I just jump in real quickly? I
Yes,
just
sir.
want to say, like, look, we didn't have enough time for me to punch in a pitch, but I got my son to start playing because he absolutely he loves Metro Dread. So I'm like, man, dude, you gotta play SteamWorld Dig 2.
Yes!
Both of us
Oh.
have been playing SteamWorld Dig 2.
Yes!
Oh my god! It if you haven't played it yet, or you haven't played it since it came out,
Certified classic.
today's a perfect time to revisit
Yeah.
SteamWorld Dig 2.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I'm sure
let's
you
go.
can find
Let's
it on
go.
sale too. That
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was
Cheap little indie
it was
game.
$10 Australian, so it's probably like $8 at the moment on the Switch or whatever. And yeah,
Yeah.
That's
Hell
a
yeah.
deal.
Awesome.
Just
All
giving
right.
it away.
Mhm. I will now turn things over to you, Stephen, our resident game master for the game.
all right, lads, I've got a bit of a new one for us. We haven't quite done this before. This is me looking at some of the greatest games that came out from last year, and I'm scrubbing through the Metacritic, looking at the user reviews, and so I'm going to go through some 0 out of 10 user reviews and see if you can guess the game. So everyone has one guess. I'm going to just read through one quote, and we'll see what happens. So this is a game that came out in 2022.
Do you want us to call out our name before we guess?
I don't care.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, chaos.
You probably won't. You probably won't answer straight away. But if you do,
Well, let's
well
just
done.
call out our names to keep it
Okay,
straight,
do that.
okay?
Jonah's reining it
Do
in.
that.
Okay.
All right. So, for our first game that was in definite GOTY debates from last year, from Ansync, boring combat system where I'm just sitting there with the controller in my hand, waiting for the character to finish an auto attack. The world looks bland, but I can live with that. 0 out of 10.
What? Okay, I'm gonna, Caden.
Yep.
I completely disagree if this is what the game is, but I feel like this is something a hater would say. But is it Xenoblade Chronicles 3?
It's Xenoblade
Oh,
Chronicles 3!
good call.
The auto attack was the tell.
Yeah. Let's see if we can find.
Shout out to the soundtrack in that game.
There's
man.
always a negative review. No matter.
Mhm.
That'd be a
Shout
good
out to
one. best video game soundtrack debate. That'd be a good episode.
Oh,
We've done
that.
specific soundtracks against each
Yeah.
other. Like, what was it, like Tony Hawk?
Oh yeah, so we
It
did
was a couple
Tony
of-
Hawk Pro Skater 2 versus Tony Hawk's Underground, and that was
Yeah.
with Blake Hester from Game Informer. That was a fun episode to do.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see if
Steven.
See if we can find a terrible one. Oh, actually, I like this. This is
Okay.
instead of a 0, this is a 4.
Oh,
Okay.
that's specific.
From JG Gamer 97. Been a few years since I played the first game, and after completing part 2 again, I was looking forward to playing an updated version of part 1. But after
Come on,
playing
guys.
though, I was left feeling disappointed. The graphics are top notch. They're truly one of the best when it comes. However, the gameplay mechanic AI feels like they're a step down and doesn't feel on the same level. This doesn't feel like what it should have been. Gameplay is definitely better than the original, but it feels like there's a lot missing here. It's a joy to play through, which is weird, you're giving it a 4, mate. But it feels less fun and restrained compared to... Even the AI doesn't feel as fleshed out. This feels more like a remaster of the remaster, and also...
Jonah.
missing the
It's so
multiplayer
obvious.
Joe,
Yeah.
it's obvious. It's The Last of Us Part 1.
Yeah.
Does he not
I wanted to
realize
give you
that
guys
it
a
is a
chance.
remaster of the remaster? Like, it's not a
remaster.
remade game.
Like, why is this game like less mechanically complex than the game that came
Yeah.
out before it? Well, maybe it's because it's a remaster, bro.
Let's see if I can find a 0. Here we go. Oh, damn it, it's in Spanish.
I don't
Google
speak
Translate.
Spanish.
Okay, here we go. Alright, from Glow Guy. This is a 2 out of 10. So he's thought about it. Not the 2.
Okay.
You know, it works, supposedly. As,
Yeah.
as others have mentioned, this can hardly be called a game. I gave it a shot anyway because of all the great reviews, but I spent about 45 minutes and did not find the content compelling at all. The acting was mediocre at best, and I really don't want to waste time poring over old, uninteresting insert. Not to mention, there is no backstory at all about how the actress reappears 25 years later and looks younger than she did before
25
without
years.
anyone batting an eye. It just offers up the film as if this is completely normal. I don't get the hype, and I'm not willing
Jonah,
to invest. Yes.
is it Immortality?
It is Immortality.
Oh,
the
okay.
The classic 2 out of 10 game.
I wonder if the actress appearing in the future younger in a game called Immortality makes sense if you pay attention to the story, but I don't know.
I don't know about the whole 25 years thing, but
Yeah.
maybe that happened. I don't remember it. Okay.
Yeah.
This one's from Majid, 18. 0 out of 10 for this game.
Ooh.
Bad game compared to the first part. There were no required improvements. The story was more complicated in this part. It was supposed to clarify the problems that were in the previous part. I did not like this part. So I hope the third part will be better.
Part. Are these games that came out last year?
Yeah, these
Or
games
just-
came out last
Oh,
year.
okay. Because I was like, is this The Last of Us Part 2? But,
Again.
Oh,
okay.
this one might give it. Okay, go, Caden.
Is it
Otherwise,
God of War
I'll give another
Ragnarok?
review. It is not God of War Ragnarok.
Oh, okay.
I'll give another review. Korowan561 with a 1 out of 10. I was really looking forward to this game. Sadly, Sony first party level of polish is not there.
Oh,
and it is a
Jonah.
buggy and rush
Oh.
game. Jonah.
It's Horizon Forbidden West.
It is.
Oh, that's
the, the giveaway was meant to be dull prologue. Takes over an hour to beat ultra linear tutorial.
Yeah.
I actually had that feeling myself.
Oof.
All right,
Let's get
go
one more
find-
in there, Steven.
One more. All right, let's have a look. Let's find that 0. Come on, where are the 0? Here we
Eli,
go.
what was your game of the year last year? What would you
A
say?
game of the year?
Yeah,
Oh gosh.
putting you on the spot.
Like game that just came out like this past year.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would give it to God of War.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like that was just in terms of because I think like marketability, not my own personal preference. I think of like what's going to reach the most people, get the highest overall review scores, gold standard sort of. I think God of War. Everyone that I know that played it was like, "This is the greatest game I've ever played," and like it just sold a bunch of units. So that's
Shout out to
why that's
Christopher
kind of the
Judge.
metric. Yeah, so that's the metric I use. Not how much I personally enjoyed it, but like how much does it
Interesting.
move sort
Okay,
of the
interesting.
zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting.
All right, so from Slavisa T,
Ooh, good.
with the 0 out of 10. The game is big garbage. The world is empty. Graphics, like from 2013, 2014,
Oh man, I bet I know.
overrated game.
I know what it is.
Anyone want to jump in? Otherwise, I'll read this number.
Keep going.
Okay, no, that was his whole review. I'm gonna go with
nice.
Mingled Lotus 24 has a 3 out of 10, so yeah, positive
Okay.
results there. I don't like it too much. Neither aesthetics nor balance, fight, story in this huge empty world. It requires very much time for exploring and game rewards your exploration with very little of something. Another
Okay.
game is like million times better. Can't understand how same team was able to make ingenious something and this. Continue playing, however. Maybe later will change my mind.
Caden, go
Faded.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shauna's winning anyway, but this is Elden Ring, isn't it?
It is the 0 out of 10 classic Elden Ring.
Yeah. Classic garbage game, as everyone knows.
Yeah,
Graphics
trash.
aren't as good as Blue Point Demon Souls next gen.
I just love that.
Like,
I love that no matter what, you can find a 0 out of
yeah, no matter how quality the game is, it's
Yeah.
0 out of 10.
Worst
Yeah, God of War
experience, but-
Ragnarok. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Hilarious. Well, thanks so much, Steven, for running that game for us. Jonah,
fun.
with 3
Fun.
points. You are the winner. You win the no prize. Woo.
You win the 0 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, with that, gentlemen, we've reached the end of the podcast. Congratulations, you made it. So we'll just go around real quick and have our final thoughts. Feel free to plug anything you want to plug. As our guest Eli, I'll let you go first. Just anything that's on your mind. Feel free to plug anything. Final thoughts.
Yeah, well, this was great. Thank you all so much for having me. I had a blast. It was a hoot and a half. In terms of things that I want to plug, please go check out the Revive Radiata campaign. We'd greatly appreciate it. Every signature helps. Every little bit of support helps. If you're interested in Kingdom Hearts stuff and you like what ifs, if maybe you enjoy the sound of my voice and don't think it sounds like grating on the wall, maybe go check out my Kingdom Hearts remake series. And if you want to follow me and my voice acting endeavors, I'm on Twitter at the Eli Farmer. I'm on social media everywhere as the Eli Farmer. If you Google Eli Farmer, you'll probably find me. It's just me. So yeah, those are my plugs and 10 stars, guys. Good show.
Thanks, man. I
Sick.
appreciate
Thank you.
Final thoughts, Jonah?
it. So right now, as this episode airs, it'll be the last day that you can get this on February 7th, but there's 20% off on Redbubble, store wide. So if you want to get an awesome GGD shirt or just any of our merch, it is 20% off. But we will also be having another sale February 25th through the 28th that will also be 20% off. And get some GGD merch. It's not necessarily there for us to just get money. We do get a little bit of money. All that money goes back into the community, and it's just for GGD. None of us aren't taking anything off of it. We got rid of Wes for a reason.
Shout out, Wes. Love you, buddy.
We love you, Wes. But I just
That game
want
is in development, Hal, by the way.
I just want to see. I want to see more people representing that great game debate logo. If you want the podcast,
Love
we have
it.
we have the Great Game Debate podcast. And if you're just a fan of being a part of the server, we have a Great Game Debate Discord shirt as well. Check them out.
Sick. Yeah, shout out Hunter Pearson for designing the logo.
Yes, sir.
Rad. All right, final thoughts, Steven?
Yeah, I was last week. I was a guest on the One Up podcast and absolutely had a blast. Got to let loose with all the F-bombs and stuff, which was a lot of fun and a weight off of my chest.
I mean,
But
you have quite the stack on this episode too. I think you.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Whoops. It must be rusty. But yeah, one thing that came up, we were talking about gatekeeping, and like it doesn't matter where you find like especially like thinking about music, it doesn't matter where you start or where you find something. Like if it just hits you right, and like just before, like one of my favorite things is when you're cleaning your house is just blasting some music and just freaking just going hard on it. And so I was playing I Will Be Heard by Hatebreed, which is just has one of the best choruses, like just absolutely just ripper chorus. And where I first heard that song was from the movie Triple X with freaking Vin Diesel. Terrible movie, but my god, that song just absolutely slapped. So yeah,
Sick.
Yeah.
All right. I guess my final thoughts are just I want to say thanks again to Eli for coming on, and just really appreciate you creating the whole Revive Radiata thing, because it was like a weird, it felt like going to Mecca or something when I like got on social media after like the pandemic hit, and I just found this community of Radiata fans. And my entire life up to that point had never met a single person that played it. And the community you've kind of fostered that. I'm seeing people who still are passionate about the game today, like making fan art even today and stuff. And it's just like super cool. So hats off
Caden,
to you for that.
you said leading up to that point never had met anyone who had also played the game, but I think that was just like the peak, because afterwards you still haven't met anyone that has played the game.
Well, virtually met them, through Twitter. But yeah, now I've met someone kind of with Eli. I mean, we're face to face via webcam, but we
Yeah,
kind
it
of
counts. That's a
It,
dub.
it, it
Yeah.
counts. It counts.
Let's go. All right. Well, I've been your host, Kate Barrett Lane. As always, happy gaming. Bye.
Bye.
As always, a big thank you to our friend Misdriven for the music in our podcast. If you like what you hear and you want to check out more of what they have, you can pay them a visit on Twitter at MIST_RIVEN 719 or on Bandcamp at Misdriven. Thanks again for tuning in. Till next time.